radiation, it has enough latent energy to hit off an electron. When it hits off an electron, then we may have issues. Non-ionizing radiation don't have that energy to hit off electrons. So we've talked about radio waves, we've talked about microwaves, and we've been using this for quite a long time, and we have no issues. So this is the reason why we have no issues, because it doesn't have that energy to destroy a cell in your body. There is this other radiation or light source called the infrared waves or particles. The infrared from the sun accounts for 49% of the Earth's heating. Without the part of infrared, this part of the sun radiation, we will not survive on Earth. It's very simple. You are under the influence of radiation, whether you like it or not. Once the sun shines on you and you are under the sun, you are under that radiation zone. So no matter where you are, you can be in Ghana, you can be in Alaska, you can be in Canada, you can be in some of the coldest parts. Once the sun shines, you are under a radiation zone. It may be ionizing or non-ionizing depending on what is being done there. So 49% of the Earth's heating is done by the sun using the infrared waves. And this quotation always gets me: the sun shall not smite you by day, nor the moon by night. And it's a perfect link to how the sun does its heating. How? I won't say how. God knew that the moon needs a reflection of the sun to actually brighten. So, in writing that verse, it actually joined the sun and the moon together, because at night the moon draws its power from the sun to shine, to illuminate. So the sun shall not smite you by day, but nor the moon by night. So it's possible that the sun may be able to smite, but under God we pray that it will not smite us. Now the rest of the visible light are absorbed when the sun comes down, or the radiation of the sun comes down. The rest of the earth absorbs that radiation, that excess light, and then push it up. And you can clearly see this in Job chapter 34, where it talks about the movement or the cycle of water, where you have the heating of the earth, evaporation, it goes condensed, comes down. Now, infrared radiation or wave or light can be used to remotely determine the temperature of objects. So let's just look at some of the applications. When you are able to take a photograph using infrared, we call that photographic process thermography or thermography. These are not things that we are projecting will happen. No. These are things that you are already using and must be aware of. Again, so when somebody comes and talks about radiation, you have the capability to ask the person the right questions. When somebody comes and talk about light, you have that capability to ask the person the right question. So application of infrared waves extend to heating, communication, meteo, spectroscopy, astronomy, biological and medical sciences. So when you are coming in or you are coming through our airport, you will usually encounter a camera. That camera captures your thermal image, and that is what's on my left or on your left also. And this is done using infrared. We all have remote controls at home, and I believe we have remote control here. How does it work? It uses infrared to communicate. Some of our phones have infrared abilities to share information. So we are using that source of light. Unfortunately, we are not realizing that that source of light is already there and we are using. Sometimes we use things and we don't actually go into what is happening in it. We all sit and hear the meteo man pointing north and south, east and west, telling us it's going to rain here, it's going to rain there. How do they do it? Infrared. When you go to the hospital, or you go to the, how do they call it, where they run a lot of tests, the medical center, to check your stats, they will give you something that looks like some peaks, just like what we have on the left-hand side, or the right side, the extreme right. It's done by infrared. Now, visible light, what we see, I believe whoever have stayed outside, the first time I went to the US, the first week I was very confused. It took about 2 weeks for me to adjust to whatever was there, because I went in summer. I was walking around, checked the time, it was 10 p.m. There's no darkness. So I asked myself, is my watch wrong? What is happening to my watch? So I had to ask someone else. I never knew it. So with light, you can actually determine what is happening. You have that clear visibility to see what's happening. You can even use light to determine the times. Because in the summer, over here, our summer, well, we have dry and wet season. But within the wet season, you know approximately what time the sun comes up. And some people I know will leave their curtain a little open. So when the sun hits the eye, you are awake. Without the sun, issues of photosynthesis will not happen. It will not happen. So plants, bacteria convert that sunlight energy captured from the sun into chemical energy that can be used to fuel organisms' activities. In plants, algae, cyanobacteria, photosynthesis uses carbon dioxide and oxygen, and releasing oxygen as a waste product that we as human beings need. So without this light spectrum, life on Earth would have been very, very difficult. Ultraviolet light. I'm just touching on the basic things that we all know about. I'm not going to touch on the advanced things like lasers that are used in cutting in the industry, that are used in repairing eyes. I'm not going to talk about that. That is for another. But things around us that we see all the time is what I want us to relate with and know that if these things were supposed to kill us, if these radiations were supposed to kill us, then God shouldn't have created the sun in the first place. But he perfected it. So ultraviolet light is actually responsible or has a regulatory role in calcium metabolism, which is vital for normal function of the nervous system as well as the bone growth and maintenance of the bone density. Gives you immunity, cell proliferation, and insulin secretion and blood pressure. Now, the UV light exposure induces the production of vitamin D. So the vitamin D is responsible for all these. So without the sunlight, without the UV aspect of the sun, I believe all of us would be buying vitamin D tablets at very high cost. But it's being produced in our bodies using light without us actually knowing. X-rays. X-rays. So, everyone here, I believe, has actually taken an X-ray before. Everyone here, I believe, has taken an X-ray before. So, there is what we call the soft X-ray and the hard X-rays. The soft X-rays deposit a large amount of energy on your skin without going through and through to take the picture. So in X-ray, what happens is we have a source and we have a detector. You stand in between the source and the detector. The source brings out an amount of energy, goes through you, and then it makes a picture on the detector through a film. And that's how come you get your X-rays. But there's one thing, X-ray is actually ionizing. So, if you will realize, whenever you take a child to an X-ray facility, they tell you, they try as much as possible to convince you that is there another way of actually knowing what is wrong with the child apart from X-ray. Because the child's cell proliferates very fast. So, if they are unlucky and hit the child's chromosome with an X-ray energy, it's possible to break the chromosome, and then whatever will happen in terms of the replication of the chromosomes. So I was talking about the soft X-rays. The hard X-ray is able to go through you. This is just an advice. Whenever you go to an X-ray facility, if they don't check your weight, tell whoever is responsible to check your weight. Please, it's very important. If they don't check your weight, tell whoever is there to check your weight before he actually operates the machine and gives you an X-ray. The reason why I'm saying this is very simple. Whatever X-ray is taken is based on your weight. So you have what we call the KVA and the MA. If we know your weight, we can manipulate the KVA and the MA such that we take it once. It gives us a perfect picture, and then you are off. Have you taken an X-ray and the operator says it didn't work or the picture doesn't look well, so we stand there again? And since we don't know, we stand there and then they give us a second shot. Has anybody experienced that? They give you a second shot of the X-rays, forgetting that X-rays are ionizing in nature. There is another application of X-rays or gamma rays. At Atomic Energy Commission, we do from archaeology to zoology. It's a research facility for the whole country. we have identified a way to actually preserve food. Please, who hasn't eaten an apple before? We don't grow apple in Ghana. But who hasn't eaten apple in this room before? It means everybody has taken apple before. The apples that come in, we buy from Game, we buy from ShopRite. They come from South Africa. Before they get the license to bring it to Ghana, it needs to go through what we call irradiation. So they use X-rays to sanitize the apples. It is not poisonous. What it does is it goes through the apple and then kills any microbial organism within that apple, so that it will not grow and spoil the apple. So hardly will you buy apple from Game or ShopRite and it's spoiled. Hardly. In Ghana, we have the same facility. And we irradiate all sorts of things. So people who have to take their products, agri products, outside the country, there is a burden on you to provide a certificate showing that you have irradiated your food samples. So I believe everybody take yam in this place. It comes in season. But you can actually irradiate yam sample or yam, and it will last 1 year on the shelf. If you cut it, it's fresh yam. So this is one way of actually reducing post-harvest losses. We have cocoa that we irradiated in the 1980s or so. The cocoa is still fresh, as if it has just been picked off the drying mat. So there are things available and naturally occurring materials that is able to give you X-rays. So how did X-ray come about? There was this lady who found a material. It was a stone or an ore. Put the material in her drawer, closed it. After some few days removing it, she saw that whatever was under the material was drawn on the paper. And that's how come we started looking into X-rays. So the first image that was done by Röntgen of an X-ray. He didn't know the effects of X-ray, and the only person who will allow him to actually perform that experiment was his wife. So he bought his wife a very beautiful ring and then X-rayed her hand with the ring. And that is still available. That X-ray is still available. So apart from preserving food, there is the health aspect that we spoke about. Before I go on to other things that are futuristic in nature that we discussed this morning, when you go to Konfanoche Kolebu Teaching Hospital, they have what you call the teletherapy machine. Or before that, let me just give you whatever is here so that we are clear on whatever we are looking at. So on the far right, when you go through the airport, you have your things going through an X-ray machine. If you have food, it will go through it. You go and do what you call the medical computer tomography. You have an X-ray. And computer tomography is for soft tissues. So when you want the bone tissue, you do an X-ray. If you want a soft tissue picture, you do CT. Mammography is for the ladies and for men together. So this shows the various X-rays that we have. and for what purposes. Now, there is another form of light we call the gamma radiation. The gamma radiation is the most powerful radiation that you have currently, or that is known in terms of light energy. So gamma radiations are used in the curing of cancer worldwide. They are used in industry. So you go to the oil industry, they have what we call gauges, nuclonic gauges over there, to measure the depth of the oil. You go to the automotive industry, we have what we call the non-destructive evaluation, where people will, after welding, you need to check the weld, whether there are any cracks in the weld. And we use light, a form of light, in doing this. We call it the gamma radiation or the gamma light in doing this. So there is no one form of light. Now, I want to discuss with you what we did this morning, or part of what we did this morning. It's not supposed to be part, but I thought it will be interesting to see what's going on. And it's about the 5G technology, which is part or have its basis in the light spectrum. So, mobile applications are all in the non-ionizing radiation part. And you have the X-ray part of ultraviolet sitting in the radiation or the ionizing radiation part. So if you are using microwave, you are using television, you're already in that part. You've been using phone for how long? Has it given you any challenges, health challenges? It works within a non-ionizing radiation zone, a non-ionizing radiation light. So, we talk about phone technology or the 5G technology. The 5G technology is here with us. People have linked it to the coronavirus, has linked it to other issues that are going on, has linked it to the coming of Christ, have linked it to the end of the world. But let's look at it for what it's for. We are using a form of light to transmit data. The ecclesia must be able to build capacity, the human resource, to tap into this technology. We sit here, or we sit as an ecclesia, and we allow things to go on without participating, thinking that it's for the I'm not talking about Logos-Rhema Foundation for Leadership Resource Development, but I'm talking about the church. So you have churches with fat bank accounts sitting at Bank of Ghana, and we are not even building a think tank to look into these areas of augmented reality, of virtual reality. This is our father's estate, as Pastor Abu Dr. Abu will state it. And our father's estate is being run by other people from the other side. And we don't see the reason to build capacity in this area and run things as they are supposed to run. So, number one, smart mobility. My time is almost up. Smart mobility, with 5G, cars will be able to communicate with each other. Currently, you have what you call a parking assistant in most cars, the new ones, not the Datsun 120. In most cars now, you have the park assistant. The parking assistant tells you when you are backing up, it beeps. Beep, beep, beep. there is a car behind you. Some cars now even have the parking assistant in front of the car. So that when you are getting too close or somebody is there, it warns you. Now, there are cars that are being built by Tesla and the rest. Google has a car that drives on its own. It is not witchcraft. This is technology. You speak to intellectuals and like, I am not going to sit in any of these cars. What about when it crashes? But we crash all the time. We need to build capacity in this area. We need to use the 5G technology to spread the word of God, because it's a huge amount of data coming to you. Now, most of us are on 4G, 3G technology. You are able to make about 5 minutes video call. We are happy. We are talking about downloading a whole movie, about 700 megabytes or 1 gigabyte movie within a second. There are countries around the world that is running on speeds that are equivalent to 7Gs and 8Gs. NASA, as we sit here, NASA runs on a speed that's equivalent to 16G. We sit here and run on 2G, and we are happy as an ecclesia in this country. This is where we are going as the church. It's about time we wake up and take over this industry and make decisions, policies that affect this industry that people will follow and abide by. So smart cars are coming, or they're already here, 5G. So you can have the vehicles connecting. You can have taxis driving with no driver behind the seats. When you need it, all you need to do is just go to your 5G phone, call it. It will come to wherever you are using the GPS position, the GPS positions, the global position system, and then it picks you wherever you are, take you wherever you are going, and come back. I'm sure somebody is asking, these cars on our roads, don't worry, we'll get there. So benefits of smart mobility includes traffic balancing. Trust me, it's annoying when you have a GPS that goes off from time to time and you are lost. You need to take a curve, you get beyond the curve, and then you get your signal again. I should have taken the curve back there. Now you have to go all the way, make some U-turn and come back. On 5G, once those things are working, you have constant and good speed in terms of data that is coming to you. The next one I would like to talk about is smart health. And let me just skip to where you have the pictures. So in the middle of the picture, so we have 3 sets of pictures. In the middle, you have a doctor using augmented reality, virtual reality, to practice how to do an operation on the spine. This is where we are going. So we always don't have to get you a dead body to practice on. Number one, the dead body cannot feel. So if you break or if you cut any form of artery or vein, you are free. You take it to a live person, and maybe that's one of the reasons why some of us don't like to go to the hospital. So you have practical things that goes on. And with 5G, with that data, quantum of data coming in, you are able to do these things without breaks. Can you imagine doing this thing on 3G? And then you get to a place, you know how this internet works. There is this round thing that keeps going round. It never ends. Sometimes 5 minutes, it keeps going round. You are already angry. Just put the phone down and let me just go my way. With 5G, that round thing, that runabout is no more. On my left, you have doctors already using this. So they have, for lack of better expression, suspended the heart in the air. They see every artery that they are entering into. They see every part that they are entering into just by using augmented reality and virtual reality. And you have same on the far right. Industrial applications. The time of using whole strength digging, lifting of how do we call engines. When you go to Abosokai, you have, I want to buy an engine, you have 2 people just come and stand there, lift the engine and put it in the car. When they finish, Master, review. Master, we are done. In other jurisdictions, all you need to do is sit in your office, instruct a machine. The machine picks it up and just put it where it's supposed to be. And that's why I say we need to build capacity in this area. How to do things. How to build these things. How to operationalize these things. If for nothing, whoever brought COVID has actually taught us something as church. That things are not going to remain same. And we need to shift. Things are not going to remain same. We need to find new ways of doing things. And it comes through technology. Yesterday I was chatting with my brother Ima Labi, and some people who are opposed to or who doesn't like the things that Bill Gates is doing are using Cisco WebEx for their meeting. And we ask, who owns Cisco? It's the Bill Gates. So it's like you creating a computer virus. Trust me, most of the viruses that come on our computers are created by the people who create antivirus. It's a business. And if we don't have sons taking their positions in this era, we are going to pay for it through our noses. Yesterday, Dr. Bako said something. The most important resource is not money, it's the human resource. And we have youth that are willing to learn. What is the church doing? What avenues is the church making rather than looking at governments? So, you talk about 3D printing. Now, I was watching, it's not a movie, but a short video. And now some buildings elsewhere, you print out the part of the building and then you just go and mount it. This is not concrete. It has the same strength or even better strength than concrete. All you need to do is have a 3D printer to print this. And when you have this 5G coming in, with all that data, you will be able to print whatever you want to print. Consumer applications. Consumer applications. So we are moving into what we call a holographic era, where I don't have to call Shekwenya on the phone, put the phone by my ear. By the time I finish the meeting with him, I have issues with my ear because he may not hear me, he may be shouting. So now you have phones that are able to bring up a hologram, or you have architectural space that are able to bring holographic materials. So what you have here is they are building a city. They don't have to build cards and all those things again. No. We are moving on. What you have there, once you are in this space, I mean talking about the down picture, once you are in this space, you are fully immersed in a certain environment. Your body responds to this environment. And it's all part of the light that we've been using. The light that God created. There are people who are conducting researches into these areas. What is the ecclesia doing? What is the church doing? I presented something this morning, and one of the things that I said was this. If you think that 5G is created by the suns on the other side, then you need to rethink again, because 6G is here. China launched a 6G satellite into space last year. As we were here being quarantined, coronavirus here, coronavirus there, they launched into space a 6G satellite in China. It was carried out, or it was carried on BBC. You can check those things. So we have varied lights. And as Dr. Abu always say, you sitting there, you are solidified light. When you come to the Institute of the Futuristic Institute of Science and Technology, we teach you this, that you are in a galaxy. That galaxy is full of stars. That galaxy is full of stars. You are expected to be important or to relate to that galaxy. You need to link to a higher body. So over there you are sitting, you are already light. And we have these lights that we have discussed. The radio lights, the microwave lights, the infrared, the ultraviolet, the visible light, the X-ray, the gamma ray. And I hope that you've been able to pick some of the basic things that are already being run. And I'm not saying this is the end of it, no. Even what is there can be improved upon, and new things can even come out if we actually take our work as the ecclesia seriously. God bless you and shalom. Okay, so the father of the house says questions. So we will take some questions.
Shalom.
I hope there are plenty of questions.
Yeah, a lot of questions.
Yes.
Yeah, well, the question I want to ask here is, now what you're saying is real. I even realized some of the people sitting here are not interested. I mean, and for me, I think it's the state of the church, because the Internet of Things, I'm not really sat down with a lot of people, and it's understandable because of all the hullabaloo that has gone with it. There's the fear for, disease, 5G, and people dying here and there. But I want to say, what do you say the church, what is the clear word I hear you say in terms of the agenda of God with this end time and how the church ought to position themselves? And for me, I like to start from our Jerusalem for here. What is like the clear thing we have to put in place? For example, if we talk about censorship, I know, or I've sat in a class where we talked about where things are being censored. After a while, probably when you Google Jesus wept, you said nothing like Jesus wept. There's nothing like, and that's, like erasing the Bible entirely, because what we know in the news now is actually Bible, everything has been withdrawn. So where is the place for the church to make sure that we are ahead of things so that we're not taking unawares, starting from Jerusalem?
Okay. So, I'm not saying this because the chief servant is here, but I strongly believe we are in a very opportune place as Logos-Rhema Foundation for Leadership Resource Development. Whenever I'm teaching in First, I always say this. I came here to get married. After 11 years of marriage, I'm still here. See, there are things and structures and systems that may not, or you may not see. But I also strongly believe that the chief servant has shared some things earlier, which has to do with science and technology. And when you look at the little that he shared with us, if we are religiously following it, and I use religious in a sense, we are religiously following it. David Osai is here, if I may use him as an example. What stops us? Because David Osai is in a certain atmosphere, in a certain group. What stops us from raising an agenda of raising young men in science and technology, even for the media of communication, or building systems using science and technology for the media of communication? I strongly believe we need to go back or step back as an ecclesia and look at the things we've been taught and start putting them in practice. I don't know how to say it, but I have finished teaching this morning. The chief servant invited me to share a little bit on an issue, just a little bit, 30 minutes. After sharing, I was going home and say, go and prepare for this. Trust me, that 30 minutes I shared, I spent about 4 hours preparing for it because I know how he wants his things. Now, I'm going home and he's like, can you please share on the practicalities of the things that you spoke about this morning? So I went home, went to my father-in-law's place, because if I'm supposed to go to Dodowa, I won't have that time to prep. So I had to go home, do a whole new presentation together with what I did this morning. So the burden is on us. What he is doing, or what the management is doing, is prepping us for us to move out. But we've been feeding. The food is also sweet, so we don't want to leave. I'm not saying we should disconnect from Logos-Rhema, no. What I'm actually saying is, whatever that has been taught, I've been sitting here. Last time I told Daddy, for real, I sat here, and usually I come and sit at the back. For 3 years, I did not understand what he was teaching. But with time, you get to know some of the things that he is talking about and start to practicalize. I give you a typical example. I am 39 years. It has never happened in the history of Ghana Atomic Energy Commission that a 39-year-old will be a director of a technical institute. 2 years ago, we came for the all-9 service. Okay, you can take this as a testimony. And he says something that even though you are not prepared, God is going to prep you to put you in positions. He didn't say it to me. He said it to the whole congregation. All I did was just pray into it. Because that's what I realized. When he says something, he says, pray into it. I just prayed into it. A year later, my director was leaving and he was asked, who do you want to take over the institute? I said, Dr. Debrah is there. I'm not special. But what I'm trying to do is, the little that I can practicalize, I will do it. Unfortunately, I wrote something and now it's hanging on my neck. So we came here for a certain discussion, and then it was John who actually led me to do that. So, right the time that you will be available, I was standing with John, and John is like, some of us, Daddy knows we don't have that time. And so what do we write? It says, when called upon. So myself, himself, we all wrote when called upon. That was the time we gave. So when we are called, we don't have an option. Because that is what we wrote. We wrote it, and he took the sheet away with him. So what I'm saying is, let's start to practicalize some of the, and this is a typical example. We have other experts over here. We have people in administration, we have people in government. They can share on the practicality of using whatever we have learned over here. I'm very sure you didn't know about microwaves as a light, but today you know. So let's start from somewhere, from this house, and let's build that capacity as we go along.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. Please, I want to know, are there any side effects on some of the things you've just talked about, the microwave oven, the X-ray? Do you advise how often can we subject ourselves to things like that, and a few other things? Are there any side effects to them? Thank you.
Brother Joshua, since I came here, almost every Sunday you stand here and give announcements. The microphone you are using right now is working on radio waves. What you need to do as a human being is build your immune system. Once you are able to build that, one of my students just came to me and said, Doc, I have measles. And I asked, when you were a child, were you immunized against measles? He said, yes. So you were given a vaccine, and now at your older age, you have measles. I'm just getting somewhere. Vaccines have actually not cured anything in this world. Build your immune system. Eat right. Drink right. Know when to eat, what to eat. If there is something even ionizing, the body is able to repair. Even cancer, and usually I call him Prof. He will tell you some few things you can do for cancers. So, yes, there is a level of risk when it comes to ionizing radiation, and in this case, I'm talking about X-ray and gamma rays. Even for non-ionizing, if your immune system is not strong enough, there's a possibility So we always say, for gamma ray and X-ray, use time, shielding, and distance. Keep your distance from the source. Don't stay too much or don't spend too much time around it, and then wear the right clothing. But once your system is well built, I have a colleague, he is retired. He was working as a technologist on a nuclear reactor. You know, we have a reactor in Ghana, a small reactor, a 30 kilowatt reactor, research reactor in Ghana. So when he was coming there, he came from SGS. He was coming there, everybody is like, this place, when you go, you get cancer. He got there, 2 years later, he gave birth to twins. So building your immune system is all I'm saying. You need to build a strong immune system too. I'm not sure Adam took any vaccines, but I'm very sure he was fine. Any question, please?
Thank you very much, Dr. Debrah. I have 3 questions. Good. My first question is, if there's any institution, I know the institute, to me, and few of my friends that we have attended the institute, what we normally say is, this is advanced university. I mean, it's even more than the master's degree, because for the first time when you go there, I wonder if you'll be able to understand and really work with maybe 30% of the staff that you get there. It will take you years, like you said, and I'm still doing my own thing with the first FDI that I attended. But if there's any institution for our young men and women to come, you know, more or less like a demonstration school, so that they will come, they know their areas, and then they are modified or retrained so that they can better off, be much better equipped in their sphere, that will be good. My second question has to do with the gamma rays and chemo.
Let me just try the first one, then you can move on to the. Okay. Now, if you look at the scheme of things, and again, I know it's not everybody who has seen a glimpse of what the CS has put on paper. I know a few people who are working on few areas and a few people who are working on the general things. So the school, it's more of a training center, okay, where you practicalize some of the things that you have learned. So it's part of the plan, but there should be a first step, and that's why people are always encouraged to come for the MTI, because that's where it starts with. Once the mindset,
the 30% I said was only a speculation, please.
Well, but at least, if even it's 10%, let's try and put that 10% into motion. Let's try and put that 10% into motion, and let's see where it takes us.
Apparently, I asked that question because on a document that I chanced upon from here, which was on spiritual mapping, there was a quote from George Otis Jr. So I went and read about George Otis, and I saw how he mobilized his students into research, into people groupings in line with how they would pray. So that is why I'm asking this particular question. But the second question has to do with the chemo. I don't know if your solutions would help our hospitals to come out with a better provisions in helping cancer patients who go through the chemo. I mean, majority of the patients ends up, you know, losing their lives or losing 1 or 2 things even before the second year. So that's what I suggest there. Now the third question has to do with the ionization of some of the fruits that we use here, especially like the normal apple the pear, and then sweet potatoes. I don't know again if your findings are out there for us to use, because I know for sure that even now, Blue Skies will not buy mangoes from mango farmers from Ghana. They'd rather go to Burkina. And so I don't know if you have a way where we can, add value to the chain of production. Thank you very much.
Let me take the second and the third, and then I'm sure the CS will come in with some few things. Now, chemo is not radiation. Chemo is pure chemicals. Chemotherapy is pure therapy. So radiation therapy is different from chemo. Sometimes they combine chemo and radiation, or chemo, surgery, and radiation. So there's a difference. But you see, in Ghana, unfortunately or fortunately for me, I've seen some few things at Konfanochi because I was there for about a year or two as a medical physicist before I moved on. Now, most of our cancer patients come in at the late stage, the metastasis stage. So doctors just gives you what we call palliative treatment, just to ease your pain, and hopefully you die with some dignity. So we need to know the difference between these things. Now, in terms of the food irradiation, the equipment at the Ghana Atomic Energy is there. There are researches that has been run in Ghana, published in Ghana, some even published abroad, that you can easily get your hands on. I may gather one or two and share with you if that's okay with, so that at least you see the efficiency of that system. And this was a research carried over years, so at least you have some form of follow through when you look at it. Daddy, please.
Thank you very much. I believe after that there might just be one more question and then we have to close because of the next meeting. We're not dismissing you, but you can stay because there is an impartation service for a conference we've been holding in Nigeria, which is the one he was talking about, which is for leaders. So you are qualified for that. But back to the point, the question. Her question was, do we have anything practically to help children? Yes. There are children now that happen to have been privileged to be part of a training in the year 2000 at the National Service Secretariat from ages 10 to 20. However, we had a few, about 3 of them that were exceptions, from 7 to 9 that were added, to those others. And none of them, not a single one of them, is ordinary, because they ended up understanding brain studies, the various hemispheres of the brain, and if you are more dominant in this area, this is the best kind of profession to go into at that age. So indeed, we are more than ready to help with any area. Here he was one of the people where there was 6 months of training for the youth in shadow government and then the Constitution of Ghana. At the end of the day, it is whether or not our people are taking advantage of that. Because fortunately, unfortunately, like he said, we are trying our best to help people. But whether they see it or not is a different story. You might be right. And like he said, maybe the things that we see at the global level is so, global in outlook, and we have the panoramic view that when we're coming to the smallest detail, we just probably give you an idea and hope you will work with it. Because we believe by the grace of God, this place that you're seeing, it's supposed to be helping the whole world and the whole universe under God, as God will enable us. That's why what in the UK they're trying to do is here. Is one of the people in the group of 5 that I gave an assignment. I think it's about 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago. I gave an assignment to solve the challenge of power supply, where you use DC to supply directly appliances that are AC. And in the UK, they are currently rewiring for domestic supply so that they will only have DC appliances to now supply the DC current to, okay, power. But we, by the grace of God, have proven that you can supply DC directly to AC. We're just trying to scale up now. So God has solutions, like you said, concerning, quantum physics, quantum particles, quanta particles, they call them. Every one of us is solidified light. It's just for you to now begin to say, what is he talking about? Lord, what did you mean by this? A sister, she's not here right now, but she normally sits there. She said, I talked about genetic engineering. This is 1998. And she says, Lord, I didn't understand all the things you were saying. He was using big words. Deoxyribonucleic acid, ribonucleic acid, and all those things. Me, I didn't understand any of those. But he said, you can change my genes. At least that one I understood. So whatever it takes for you to change my genes, so that I will go from SS, actually in her own case it was SC, which is the more, crisis-prone type of sickle cell anemia. She said, I want you to do something, and God changed that, and she was AA, the electrophoresis test of the hemoglobin, the result came out as AA. May I end this way? Did you know I never sat one day, and God is my witness, in a biology class? But by the grace of God, I am privileged, just by His mercy, to teach even some doctors. One time I was being asked by, somebody in the aspect of, to meet with the Deputy Minister of Health in a particular place to contribute my quota to the reconfiguration, changing, that thing. Sorry, I understand, they're not able to get the best quality image, and I'm the same one who tells them, excellence, excellence. Okay, all right, sorry about that. I'm now here. So, for example, when it comes to that aspect, I was being called upon to give my own input to changing the curriculum for medical training of medical officers. Come on. Why? You heard what he said, and that's what I always tell them. Which university of oceanography did Noah go to? Which university of zoology and all the others, because I could go botany, all those other things, did Adam go to? Now I could go on. So why do you limit yourself to that which man has created? Who created the world you currently live in? God, the dragon, his surrogate spirits, or any of his agents, or man, talking of you, or any other man, and any other man. Was it the man that is of God, or man that is of the devil? Who created the world you currently live in? So you need to ask yourself some very, very, for lack of a better word, fundamental questions. Why do I believe what I believe? Who told me what I believe right now? How did I come about it? And then, what even I read, how do I read it? Do I read it from God's perspective, or from the perspective of the dragon, his surrogate spirits, and all their agents? That is important. So, very beautiful, important questions, But I am expecting to hear very soon that you have started practicing with the 1/10 and now you are transforming your world. Shalom to you.
Shalom.
Shalom. And thank you so much for the interaction. I want to talk concerning the G5 that you mentioned. Not until today, I didn't know that the G5 was rather for our good. 5 genes, sorry. Thank you, Daddy, for the correction. The 5 gene was for our good because we are in an information age. And there's so much of information out there, information overload. And so most of the things we grab, we get them from social media. And so we tend out to be believing the falsehood rather than the truth. And so for me, I'm just so happy for today. And Bible says, for lack of knowledge, my people perish. We are perishing because of lack of knowledge. And I know that there's nothing that God cannot reveal. Sometimes we are lazy. We don't go to God to ask him what exactly it means or what exactly it is that we should know. So what I want to say is that I think this information should go out more. We need more of this information so that we'll diffuse our minds of the falsehoods that we have believed and believe the truth. So God bless you so much. And we need more of the Dr. Debrah and Davids. God bless you all. And Daddy, God bless you too.
So God bless you. That is not a question, but let me just say this. You said something that just took my mind somewhere, that we live in an information world. No, we don't live in an information world. We live in a data-abound world. When that data is processed correctly, then that data becomes an information for you to use. So what you are reading is just data to you. You are perceiving it as information. You have to sift what is good, what is bad, and then process the good ones, not together with the bad ones, and then take it along. So look at what you read and then make sure that you have grounding in whatever you are doing. And as Daddy said, the grounding is always up there. Thank you very much.
All, thank you very much. I believe that we are about ready to hook into the other part quickly. That's the conference in Nigeria. And then those of you that want to stay, you're welcome to stay. If you want to leave, you're welcome to leave. The only thing is that in terms of, maybe let me quickly do this. In case you want to leave, we can release you. But if I were you, I would not leave. But I would. Thank you. Father, we thank you for the gift of life, the gift of love, the gift of fellowship with you and with one another, and this wonderful time of listening to you through your servant. And as we break the fast, we declare that indeed that which has to do with the body of Christ broken for us and the blood of Jesus shed for us and the importance of the impact of such is released into expression and manifestation in our lives. So we declare right now that we bless you for the bread of heaven that was given for the life of the world. And our prayer is that that bread of heaven would cause us to become the true life givers you've made us, in line with 1 Corinthians 15, from verse 45 to 49, because the last Adam is the man